I remember one of the times when we were auditioning drummers, and Ozzy and Randy and I, this was before we had Lee Kerslake, we got the main bulk of some of the songs together, and I came down one morning, and Ozzy and Randy had been working on some lyrics for one of the songs, and I said, "Oh, let's see what you got." And I had a look, and God, this is embarrassing. It was awful. It was rubbish. You know, I thought, I can't be part of that. I'll write the lyrics. I said, "Lee, look, I'll write the lyrics," and that's how it came about. I just took over then and did it from then on.
Well, we're glad that you did, Bob. I got to say. Well, you know, to me, and maybe my view is prejudiced, but I think it is. These two albums, Blizzard of Ozz, that you and Lee and Randy wrote together. To me, they are the most important pieces of music in my life.
Well, that's fantastic to hear that, and I've heard that from many, many people. And obviously at the time, we didn't know, what they were going to be or how they were going to turn out. And we knew at the time of recording them and rehearsing the stuff and writing the stuff that it sounded special, but it sounded special to us. But we didn't know how it was going to be received in the world at large.
Sure, Sure.
And don't forget, we got the band together at the end of 1979, and around sort of 79, 80, and 81, when we wrote and recorded those albums, it was almost considered old hat or dinosaur music, because there was such a big promotion of like disco and dance music, and also punk.
Right.
So we just went in, and we didn't really think to ourselves, well, what can we write to get airplay, or what can we write to make money, or what can we write to get a hit single, or what can we write to have a hit album? We just went in and said, this is what we like, this is how we play, and that's what we did, and that's how the albums turned out that way. Just not too contrived, just more natural.
Right, but the three of you had to tailor this music to fit Ozzy's delivery, and within his, range of skills, So how did you, when the three of you sat down together, how did you come up and make the decisions on, this is too far out, or, we think this will work? What kind of thought process did you all go through during that
Well,
time?
it was a bit trial and error, a lot of it. Like I say, with the writing of the very first album, the first Blizzard of Ozz album, so the band was called the Blizzard of Ozz.
Oh, yeah.
The band was called the Blizzard of Ozz. It wasn't just that first album, but, that's how they turned it out. But we went in and had a meeting with Ozzy and Jet Records at the time, and said, we don't want it called the Ozzy Osbourne Band, and it's not an Ozzy Osbourne solo album, because we're putting too much into this. We want a band name. So Ozzy and Jet Records all agreed that the band should be called the Blizzard of Ozz. We said, we'll use the name Ozz as, to feature Ozzy, but we still want a band name.
Yeah.
But when they did the artwork and brought that first album out, in great big writing is Ozzy Osbourne, and underneath the Blizzard of Ozz, which made it look like an Ozzy Osbourne record called the Blizzard of Ozz.
Yeah, a little sleight of hand, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that sort of shit was always going on,
Yeah. Well, Bob, there's
but,
still...
that first album was really written by Randy, Ozzy, and me. And we didn't have a drummer at that stage, and it wasn't until the completion of most of the material that we found Lee Kerslake. So he came in just at the end of the writing of that material, and then...
I understood that you had to audition about 40 guys before you found Lee.
We went through so many drummers that, some were good and some were, good but not right for the band, or some, it was a tedious, boring process. It just went on and on. And we finally found Lee, and when Lee just started playing, I think one of the first songs we auditioned with him was I Don't Know. And as soon as he started playing, and Randy and I looked at each other and thought, where have you been?
Yeah.
And he was the last drummer we had to audition, and he just fitted like a hand in a glove. It was just right for the band.
Well, it must have, it's amazing to have to go through 40 guys, to finally find the one. Speaking of I Don't Know, Bob, on that line, Randy plays a 16th note pedal figure with the chord stabs, and you play on the 8th note behind him on that one.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of guys today, I guess, they would play a 16th note figure on the bass behind the 16th note figure on the guitar, and so on and so forth. And I, in my mind, when I do the analysis on the music, I look and I say, well, the thing is, if the bass player stays back on the 8th note pulse while the guitar is up at the 16th note, it's going to give some space and dimension to the line and some contrast.
Well, I think it gives space, but I think the main reason I played 8s instead of 16s with Randy was to fit in more with what Lee Kerslake was doing, and to give it power.
Gotcha.
It needed to have that power, and if I had gone with Randy doing 16s, I think it would have lost power.
No, it's interesting, Bob. When you look at a piece of music, you can, from the person who didn't write it or make these hardline decisions, you could say, well, it could be this, could be that, and your best guess, So
yeah. And just for a second, to get back to your question before about the material with the three of us. Well, first, like I say, first of all, it was just me and Randy and Ozzy.
Yes.
A lot of the vocal melodies Ozzy had to sing over things that we put together musically, and then I would fit lyrics to his melodies and phrasing. So I would have a tape of him just singing anything that came into his head to get an idea of the melody and to get an idea of his phrasing, how it sang and where it, slotted in.
Right.
And then I would write lyrics to that.
Is that your preferred way to work, Bob? I mean, do you
want
not
to
work
always.
from the melody?
That was just the circumstances to that. But it's good. Sometimes it's good to have a melody first to to see what lyrics will sing right or how they'll fit in with what's happening musically.
Right.
But with Ozzy especially, I mostly did it that way.
I see. Now, the arrangement style on the material on those albums, it's not the typical, hard rock style, verse, chorus, and now we're going to solo over the chorus figure type of thing. I mean, you're really using, what I call the progressive rock arrangement style, where we have pre-choruses, multiple interludes, and especially, Bob, on the, this is where I think the thing really shines, is, in the solo sections, you guys wrote your own ostinato harmonies for those solos, as opposed to going back and
the solo would take off and do something else too. It wasn't like, okay, let's solo over a chorus or let's solo over a verse. Quite often it was like the solo section should be something different to the rest of the song.
Right, but it's pretty unique, in the hard rock, world that we're used to.
Yeah.
Now,
I think that was with both Randy and myself. He'd say, I've got this solo idea, and then we'd just develop that. Or sometimes I'd say, I've got a chord pattern that you could solo over. And he'd say, okay, great, let's hear it, and we'd do it like that. But we did actually purposely and consciously say, let's have a solo section that's different to the rest of the